Well, howdy mother tankers, and welcome back to another Gunners course. How are my fellow tank drivers doing today? Well, we recently just had an update, and I thought, well, I'm going to make this video anyway, but now with a little animation gives it makes it a lot easier. I'm going to go through the basics of ammunition in the tank game. Let's make a start. First shell you're going to be using, I imagine any tier, probably lower tiers mainly because that's the standard ammo, is the armor piercing shot. As you can see, AP, armor piercing, does what it says on the tin. It is in fact a shell that goes through armor. Now it does have some drawbacks. You can't need to have to aim at the weak spots on heavily armored or angled armored vehicles because it is quite an easy one to bounce. So AP, standard shot, armor piercing. Next we have the APC, or the Armoured Piercing Capped. The capped means it's basically got a cap on the end of your armour piercing shell, which when it hits an angle it actually deforms and changes the angle of attack of your shell to actually go through angled armour, which means it's a lot better at shooting at angled armours or things that are angled away from you. So remember that, if you've got something that's angled armour, probably the Russians because they're all angled armour, you want APC. APBC, Armor Piercing Ballistic Capped. It means there's a cap on the shell which improves the speed and trajectory of the shell. It means it's a lot flatter, means it goes a lot further, means it carries a lot more speed, so it's a lot better for shooting things at longer range. However, it doesn't really improve the penetration of the shell, so it's more of a sniping long range, probably on side of targets as opposed to angled. Are you ready for this? APCBC, Armor Piercing Capped Ballistic Capped Shell. Basically means you've got both caps from the previous ones, so you've got a highest velocity shell, but also when it hits angled armor the second cap deforms and changes the trajectory of the shell, so it will go through angled armor better. So this is a very good shell. It's very handy for sniping long range and at angled targets, so again probably the Russian tanks. And now some booms. APHE, Armor Piercing High Explosive. So with the other ones, they basically penetrate the armor and just rattle around inside. That's not what they do. That's basically just goes through the armor. With the high explosive armor piercing rounds, once they've penetrated the armor, the shell then explodes internally, so taking out crew and components and doing as much damage as possible to try and destroy the tank. So that's a pretty good shell as well. APCR, Armor Piercing Composite Rigid. You have a shell within a shell. You basically have a normal cannon shell made out of a soft material, so it fires down the barrel of the gun, but when it hits a target of angled or straight armor, the outer shell disintegrates and the inner core, which is basically a very hard metal dart, goes straight through the armor instead. That's basically it. It's good for armor piercing, but you know, it doesn't really kill much. APDS, Armor Piercing Discarding Sabot. Now a sabot is basically a tube, if you like, which contains the actual shell. Now the shell itself is too small for the cannon barrel, so this means that it sits in the cannon barrel, fits perfectly and shoots out. As soon as the actual shot leaves the cannon, the sabot, which is its container, peels apart and you're left with a very large metal dart, which really does penetrate a long way because high velocity and it goes straight at the armor and straight through, but no explosion still, so it's good for penning things, but it doesn't do much shrapnel damage. Are you ready for the acronyms again? APFSDS. Armor Piercing Fin Stabilized Discarding Sabot. So basically the same as the last sabot round. The sabot departs the actual shell when it's leaving the barrel and leaves a large hardened metal dart, but this one has fins on it, so it's a lot more stable over a lot more distance and a lot more accurate. So it's pretty good against angled armor as well. It's very good for cross map sniping where you really want to do some damage from a long distance away. And so APFSDS. back to the good old beginning, this time just good old HE, high explosive. Cracking at very thin targets, take out components and crew. Useless against anything armoured or angled armoured unless you have a massive shell. This one quite a unique round, this one, not many vehicles have it. HESH, high explosive squash head. Now this is basically a high explosive round, so it uses the armour of the actual vehicle you're hitting to explode inside and shrapnel everywhere. But what happens is the actual shell has a soft head on it, so when it hits a target it deforms and creates a larger area to create a more shrapnel internally of the vehicle. HESH. HEAT, heat, high explosive anti-tank shell. This is a nasty little weapon. It's basically a shell with a solid copper core, and when it comes into contact with armour, the core liquidizes, works its way through the armour and fires out a jet of molten copper to the internals of the tank. It really does do what it says. It does destroy tanks. And the last one on the list for now, HEATFS, high explosives anti-tank fin stabilised. Again, it's amalgamation of all the different shells we looked at before. You got a high explosive round, which is produces the copper jet within the tank, but also when it's fired, this one has fins, so it's a lot more stable, a lot better for long range shots, a lot more accurate. So high explosive anti-tank fin stabilizer round is kind of like the best round you can get, arguably, unless you're talking about missiles and things like that. So there you go, heat fin stabilized. Well, there you have it, peeps. I hope you found this useful. It's just a little explanation of what the different shells do. I know there's a lot of different choices. There are a lot more shells out there as well, but this is the main ones I've tried to touch on, just to give you an idea what they do and maybe help you in-game to choose the right shell against the right opponent. If you did like what you see, leave me a thumbs up, of course, and don't forget you can subscribe to the channel. Thank you to everyone who subscribed so much. It really does cheer me up. It does make a big difference. Thank you. Don't forget also you can check out our social media pages down here for social media goodness. Once again, thanks for joining me, and I hope this goodness course helped you out. Stay safe. Much love.